Reports political editor Victor St. Agbenson goes down memory lane to trace the Queen's long-standing ties with Nigeria. The streets of the United Kingdom are deserted as people are holed up in their houses, mourning the Queen, who was greatly loved by children across the kingdom and beyond. Mrs. Esewi Akpojivi is a Nigerian living in the United Kingdom.
She has been a nice person, trying to unite the country for a very long time. I'm sad. The kids are sad. It's a trying time for everyone generally because she's loved by all.
She says today the main agenda in schools is to carefully explain to the kids and their parents what happened to their queen in a way that would not cause health issues. As it were, the sound of the death of the historic, longest-serving contemporary monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, has been heard around the world and clearly in Nigeria. A veteran foreign affairs journalist, Mr. Vin Martin Obiora-Ilo, explains why this is so.
We mourn with English people. We also mourn because at one point in our history, she was our head of state. Queen Elizabeth is a historic figure, the longest reigning monarch in modern times. She is also a woman of destiny. If you know, her father was never supposed to be king. She was a dynamic personality.
In 1956, the Queen visited Nigeria for the first time, and Nigerians gave her a historic welcome.
From every tribe in the 12 provinces of northern Nigeria they have come. Plateau, Kaba, Benue, Ilorin, Niger, Zaria, Katsina, Adamawa, Bauchi, Kano, Borno, Sokoto. Tribes famous for their fighting men.
The visit was characterized by colorful cultural displays, an extensive tour of interesting sights and scenes, a gathering of over 300,000 children at the Lagos race course, and Nigerians lining the roads, waving in joy and appreciation as her motorcade moved around the country.
In carnival mood, the tribes who dwell alongside the Bonny River in eastern Nigeria were greeting their queen, and the ancient cannon on their huge war canoes echoed their welcome.
In 2003, the Queen visited Nigeria again during the Chief Olusegun Obasanjo Democratic Administration.
Your Majesty's visit to Nigeria is indeed very significant, and it is a momentous occasion for every Nigerian.
Queen Elizabeth II during the visit was particularly impressed and intrigued about Nigeria's big brother role in the West African sub-region.
My country particularly applauds the leading part the Nigerian government and people are playing in the new Partnership for Africa's Development and the international community's efforts to bring peace and stability to Liberia, Sierra Leone, and other nations racked by conflict in West Africa.
A publisher and foreign affairs expert, Dr. Cletus Akwaya, described the late Queen as a great friend of Africa.
It was during her reign as the Queen and the head of state of the United Kingdom that Nigeria got her independence. So we've got a relationship going with the reign of the Queen. It's a big loss to humanity, it's a big loss to the Commonwealth, it's a big loss to Nigeria.
Mr. Patrick Omori, a Nigerian based in the UK, described her as a loving queen.
The Queen has been a lovely woman, a lovely queen. The word Misa, actually Misa, I send my cordial greetings to her family and the whole world at large.
The Queen's demise brought out the poetic and philosophical bent in Mrs. Udeme Omorogbe, a Nigerian-born medical expert in the UK.
On the heels of one Elizabeth being sworn into office, another Elizabeth departs. Her Majesty the Queen embodied dedication, sacrifice, and service. She, I would say, was an unapologetic Orthodox Christian and a defender of the Christian faith. I would say farewell to Queen Elizabeth the Great.
Queen Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952 and became the longest reigning monarch in British history, seeing over a dozen prime ministers. This is Victor St. Agbenson, Radio Nigeria.
Well, thank you, Victor St. Agbenson. The late Queen Elizabeth II of England visited Nigeria twice during her lifetime, in 1956 and 2003. the later time to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. During a visit in 1956, an 11-year-old girl who is now 77 years carried the flowers that were presented to the Queen as a sign of warm reception to Nigeria. This woman served as a former executive director, Ibadan National Station of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN, Ms. Banke Ademola. We have online the septuagenarian to react to the death of Queen Elizabeth II. Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
We thank God. I'm fine, thank you.
All right, so how do you feel about the demise of the Queen, whom you came in contact with when you were only 11 years?
Yes. Well, I thank God for my experience because I came in contact with her twice at the age of 11, and later I was working in FRCN then when they came to Nigeria again after 50 years. Well, my reaction to her death was initially a shock because I've been following her life and what she had been doing for the people and her country. Well, in this part of the country, we will say the elephant has fallen, but she's on, like we would also say that she's going to join her ancestors. The next thing I found myself doing was reminiscing about my encounter with her. She was then, when I was 11, she was beautiful, graceful, gentle, with a handsome husband, tall, like my father was, because I was looking at my father all the time that I didn't make any mistake. And they stopped at Lafenwa Station in Abeokuta, and I was told to present a bouquet to her. They had prepared me for several days for that. Anyway, I was able to do so without any blunders, and it was the highlight of my life because I could then talk about her. People saw and heard, because prior to that I was told not to say anything, until the day. Definitely my mother knew, and my father and one or two other people. And I was most impressed at the beautiful white lady that came, very elegant. And later on, I went to England, boarding school in England, but you could tell when they were singing the national anthem, who sang the loudest, because, I was really taken in by that experience. But later, 50 years later, I was sent an invitation from Aso Rock that they were coming, and those of us who presented bouquets to her at that time were to meet them again. The thing was, they were doing this, what they call the rounds, when they go around and talking to people and all that. They came round, she came near us, and she was asking all about me that, isn't it amazing that we meet, we could meet 50 years later, that kind of thing. What have you been doing since? So I told her my life pattern and all that and style. And now what you doing? So I told her, I'm in FRCN, the Radio Nigeria. I was then the executive director of FRCN Ibadan National Station. Then she said, how long have you been there? So I told her. And I said, well, I'm about to retire. And all that. She said, that's lovely. That. Then the Duke came in. I never knew he had such a sense of humor. You've been there for 36 years. Oh my, you must be ready for the corporate archive. I didn't find it funny at the time. But later they told me that he had a funny sense of humor. Yes. And I took it as such. Because the Queen giggled, he giggled, everybody giggled, then I went on talking to him.
All right, so I can only imagine what all that meant to you. Definitely, it is the end of an era. What can you say about the Queen's reign of 70 years?
Definitely, it is the end of an era. She was brought up differently to what I might say the son was. It's a different generation, different outlook. Some people will be fearful now of what Charles would do because he has his own mind, and definitely he expressed it. And I'm sure, despite Parliament or not, he will make one or two blunders in wanting to do his will. But she was brought up differently, demure, obedient, not self-centered. She was not selfish. She spread love all around. She was loved by all. So I think it's going to be a different era. And even our women, I wanted to talk about that. Our women have a lot to learn from her. Though she was the queen and she had the constitutional power and all that, she still deferred to her husband as the head of the family.
Thank you very much, Ms. Banke. Okay, please go on.
Yes, she deferred to her husband as the head of the family. If you read about them, you will see that he sent his son to an austere, if you can call it an austere school, and he didn't like it, but he had to go because the Duke said so. To the Commonwealth, it was a passion. Excuse me, please. Passed on to her by her father. So you could see how they handled the situation, leaving their country for about 6 months and their children to go around the Commonwealth and gather the empire together. But luckily, the world is changing and all the Commonwealth members are leaving one by one, but still affiliated one way or the other to the British Commonwealth.
Thank you.
She was a devout woman. She was the head of the church, very devout. And her faith, I think, carried her through. Her humility made her something else, I would say. The way she would talk to you, look you straight in the eye, smile at you, you feel comfortable.
Ms. Ademola, that will be a good place to leave it. We thank you for your time this morning. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Former Executive Director by the National Station of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN, Ms. Banke Ademola, on the death of Queen Elizabeth of England. Ms. Banke Ademola was a flower bearer during the maiden visit of Queen Elizabeth II to Nigeria in 1956.
Now back home and to other stories.